Hello, Stacy. Welcome to the Atlantis channel. I am so excited to have you on here to just be in your energy myself, but also to share you with my audience and to hear your story.
Oh, thank you for having me, Dakota. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I know before we hit play, I was saying like I'm just excited to be here with you and get to know you. You were like an OG in our in our program,
Yeah.
so I'm excited to be here and share this space and time with you as well.
Thank you, Stacy. Yeah, for those who are watching who might not know, we have been in that pause breathwork program, which a lot of my interviews have come from that pause breathwork training, which has just been so good. And really the value for me in there has been the people that I've connected with, that we
Hmm.
get to this opportunity to meet and to hear your story. And yeah, and so a little bit about Stacy. I was just reading your bio. I didn't know this, you were certified with the life coach school, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Amazing. That's a good little badge on your website. You're a functional nutritional counselor, you're a certified Reiki practitioner, and then, of course, a trauma informed breathwork facilitator.
Yeah.
Amazing.
All the
Yeah.
things.
So,
Yes.
why? Like, tell me why? Why all these things?
Yeah, I mean, I have definitely had some experiences. I like to call myself a hummingbird. And I think it probably wasn't really until like my late 30s that I was okay with being a hummingbird. Like I thought I was going to do one thing and life took a little bit of a pivot and a turn and I was stuck there for decades. I was just like, what the heck? Like nothing makes me happy. Like this was supposed to make me happy. This was
Yeah.
is what I was supposed to do. So I've tried a lot of things, really in just a pursuit of purpose and happiness and feeling fulfilled. Um, all while really battling with a lot of anxiety, depression, trauma, which I didn't know. And I know like I say this lightly, but not lightly. Like trauma is kind of this buzzword right now, but I'm so
Yeah.
thankful that it's buzzing around because I didn't realize that there was trauma, like, that
Mhm.
I was experiencing trauma. I just thought I was like destined to be an introvert, hiding under the covers, struggling with anxiety for the rest of my life. I was like, this is just how I'm supposed to be, and maybe I'll get to share with people and they'll relate and we'll stay under the covers together, right? Like I
Yeah.
didn't understand. But there's always been like this drive, this pull, like, so just to kind of back up, I sang, I was going to go to school and major in vocal performance and be on stage. So like that, just, like performing big energy and all the things. And then I experienced a massive trauma situation that again didn't realize it was trauma. I was totally in survival mode. I was like, oh heck no, I'm gonna get out of this and we're gonna do what we need to do. I got married, brought all that into the marriage, and kind of just stayed in that fight or flight. Again, not really understanding that. I
Yeah.
just thought like, I was the anxious mom, I was the anxious wife, I was just, blah, 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 blah. So, but that desire to like connect with people, to perform, to be creative was still there. It was just, I was like, and I can remember nights when I was just like, God, will you take it away? Because if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, then take the desire away. Like, what is the purpose?
Yeah.
Why? Like, I feel tortured by it. What is happening?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it just kind of kept me going from thing to thing, just searching. And I felt a lot of shame in that. Like everybody else was able to find something and stick with it and like hunker down and make it a job or whatever. I was
Oh,
also a stay-at-home mom. So my husband had a great job. Old friends from the past, witness my growing up and my story, and they were just like, oh, you're married, this is great, you're a stay-at-home mom, like what's wrong with you, like you have the best life ever,
yeah. Come on.
yeah, come on, get it together, get from under the covers and go serve your husband and do the things that you need
Ah.
to do at school with the kids.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I'm like petrified to drop my kids off at school, like just
Yeah.
the anxiety and the panic, right? So again, I was just like, but I'm meant for more. I do believe that I'm meant for more. but I'm scared. I don't know what to do. So that is why I have done so many things. I have a lot of certifications. My well, I was about 30. I went to school late and got my degree in education because I thought that was it. Like, okay, this is the big one. Maybe if I stop doing all these like certifications and I get my degree, then I'm like, I'm locked in, right?
Yeah.
Gotta be. And during student teaching, my mentor and I did not mesh very well. And I can probably safely say that was very traumatizing for me as well. Um, and panic. Like I remember every morning before leaving the house, just sitting in the closet crying and like being so afraid to go in and student teaching in first grade, by the way, like, but my brain was so on fire and like triggering and like my whole body, I didn't know simple math problems. Like I would get up there and I would just freeze. So that was terrible. I'm like, okay, I can't do this either. I can't do anything. Oh my gosh, whatever, whatever. And I felt like I let my husband down because, I just completed this degree in this program. Like, what am I going to do? And so I became a surrogate for a family from Belgium. And that just
Okay.
kind of, yeah, like, but it was out of desperation. It was like,
Yeah.
again, me just trying to like contribute, me just trying to like
Yeah.
do something because if I'm not going to apply to have my own classroom, then what am I going to do? And that was great. It actually gave me some time to just reset,
Yeah.
to kind of come to grips with what I wanted and kind of accept where I was. It was also when I was first diagnosed with Hashimoto's, so an autoimmune condition, which was a big trigger for a lot of like my depression and the chronic fatigue and those type things. So kind of I was like being directed and guided into like this better health through the surrogacies. Like it was like I was sick, I couldn't do anything. I just sat there and cooked up a couple babies. It was like, okay, so what am I going to do with my life now? So anyway, that kind of became this beautiful journey to now. Um, I ended up subbing, which was perfect for me and the girls. Like, I also didn't realize, for those of you who are considering teaching as a stay-at-home mom gig, it is definitely not, because I totally thought like, oh, I'll just go in when they go in and leave when they leave, and that is absolutely not the deal with teachers. I love you, teachers. Oh my gosh. But subbing was right, so I got to go
Yeah.
in with them. I got to be really goofy. Lesson plans were already done, so I didn't have to like think about that. I just got to execute them and have fun. A lot of singing and dancing, if you can imagine, in
Yeah.
my classroom. So it was like really like my spirits were lifting. It was perfect.
Oh
It
man.
worked with my life and all the things. Um, and so did that, and then COVID hit, and my daughter, my youngest, so I have two girls. My oldest just retired from the military last year, and my youngest is just completing her first year of college. So my husband and I are empty nesters as of last year. But I hated Phoenix, by the way. So we were in Phoenix for 20 years, raised the girls there, and it is hot as hell. Literally,
Yeah.
I felt like I was burning. A lot of
Yeah.
people love it. It's not my thing. So I knew like 2 or 3 years before Faith graduated, that's my youngest, that we were going to move. And so I was like, I don't know where we're going to go, but it's got to be out of the heat. Like, I got to go. So about 3 years before when COVID hit, I was like, okay, well, she's not going back to school. And she didn't. She's an athlete. So she decided to actually just stay home, do school online, and then train. So it worked
Yeah.
out perfect. But I was like, well, if she's not going back to school, I'm not going back to the
Heck
classroom
no.
either. So what am I gonna do? Yeah. And also part of my story in there too is dieting. I went on my first diet when I was 14. So that was also part of like, maybe I'll be a coach. Maybe I was a spin instructor. Maybe I'll be a group fitness instructor. I was, a macro coach, all the things. You name it, I've done it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I got to lose some weight. I got to get healthy. I got to do all the things. And so I wasn't really actually thinking about like going to work. I was taking time to just work on, at the time I thought lose weight. I'm just like, I'm just going to lose some weight. That'll make me healthy and all the
Yeah.
things will be
It'll fix
great.
all your problems.
It'll fix everything,
Yeah.
right? I'll be ready. Like, and I was like, I have time, right? Because
Yeah.
wasn't like trying to pursue something. So I was like, whatever. Anyway, long story short, I ended up finding this program um, where this woman, she didn't have meal plans. She didn't like do any of that kind of stuff. She was just like, you're going to create a plan that you're going to stick to for 24 hours. That's it. You're going to write down what you want to eat for breakfast, what you want to eat for lunch, what you want to eat for dinner,
Hmm.
and your snack. And that's it. And then you're going to commit to yourself. And she's like, and when you don't want to commit to yourself, then that's the work we're going to work on. And so I didn't realize at the time that she was a life coach, of course. And so loved her program, love her still. Like, I consider her one of my mentors that really started this path for me. But fast forward in the program, okay, she's a life coach. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so empowering. I didn't actually know that I could take ownership of my thoughts. I was like,
Yeah.
what is happening? This is amazing. So I spent that last year going to school, getting trained as a life coach. And then the anxiety, of course, was still there. And I worked through some of that during the life coach training through the school. And it was because I was going to my weekly sessions and like I would just keep bringing the same thing. Like, I am petrified to go to our cohort every week because we'd meet once a week and then we'd share, we'd talk, we'd practice coach and do all these things. And I'm like, I can't do it. Like, I am petrified. Like, my heart races. Before class, I'm sitting over on the floor in like child's pose,
Yeah.
crying, hoping that like, I can calm my nervous system down. Like, I didn't, I'm singing worship music and I'm just like, take this away. I didn't understand. I was petrified just to
Yeah.
go to this online class. And so the coach said, well, let's just do this. Let's just say, because anxiety at this point had been a feeling. And she's like, let's just play with it. She's like, what if anxiety just gets to be a fact? And then you get to decide what you want to think about your anxiety. And let me just tell you, that blew my mind. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I can take like ownership and I can like really be empowered. So even though the anxiety is there,
Hmm.
I get to shift my thinking and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, yeah, I'm a little nervous, but I'm put the anxiety in my backpack. And girl, I was walking around with my backpack on and I was showing
Yep.
up and I was doing all the things. And there was a little shift, right? There was a little bit of like, because now I'm like feeling empowered. So my body's feeling empowered, but the anxiety is still there. So I became an anxiety coach when I certified, and I, right out of the gate, I was like, everybody's got to know about this, and I came out hard, started my business, did all the things, and 6 months in, of course, like I didn't meet the dream. Everybody's like, when you certify, you're gonna make all this money, you're gonna do all the things, it's gonna be
Oh yeah.
amazing, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, damn, this is a hustle. And I was like, I can't do it anymore. Like, I was exhausted. And I just ran out of steam and I wasn't passionate about it. And so and then I ended up actually getting 2 jobs. So I am a coach for 2 different containers, an ADHD coach and a weight loss program. So I'm like, perfect. This is me. I was also diagnosed late in life with ADHD. So I'm like, yes, perfect. And it was great. So I closed my business and have been working for these 2 companies for over a year, which really just kind of gave me time to hone in on my skills and, I just get to show up and coach and do the things I love. And it was awesome. And oddly enough, in these programs, I'm kind of known as the emotional coach, not by any like, just, not because that's like what I call myself, but like, I'm an empath. And I'm very real, so it's like, yeah, we can follow this tool, but you're also showing up to a call with tears in your eyes because you ate a whole bag of Oreos. So we're going to just sit and cry and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so people are just like, oh, we can do that. Like, I'm like, I guess we're going to do it today.
Yeah. That's what we're doing.
yeah, that's what we're doing. And I had showed up to another call in the ADHD program, and this lady already comes to the call with tears in her eyes, and she's like, "I am never able to make these live calls, but I listen to your calls, and I am so excited to be here today." And she's crying, and she's like, "Because you're so good at the somatics." Dakota, I didn't even know what somatic meant.
You're like, what?
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, of course. I'm like, tell me more, right? And I'm just holding space. And like,
Yeah.
again, this is like, the empath in me, this little
Mhm.
girl who's like, I get it, man. I understand what it's like to just feel so broken and not have a place to express it, not have, somebody to hold that with you. Like, I just get it. So we're gonna do it. Let's go. Um, so anyway, so that's kind of like what I get to do on a weekly basis now. And so we moved from Phoenix. We ended up moving to Maryland. Faith is playing soccer for the University of Maryland. And so we're
Okay.
like, yeah, let's go out here. It's cold. So I'm, I'm like, sign me up. And so I said 2023 is going to be my year to heal because I'm like, even though I had that mindset piece about anxiety and like I get to think of, and be empowered about my thoughts and I get to really own that there's still something tormenting me physically. And I didn't understand it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know half the stuff that I know now. But I knew it was like not okay. It wasn't okay that I was still afraid to go to the grocery store and be in big crowds, that I was afraid to go to community circles and hang out with other women. And like I knew that it wasn't, I would always use the excuse I'm an introvert. I'm like, oh, I'm an
Yeah.
introvert, whatever. Like, I'm happy here by
Like, I
myself.
don't
I
even like
got
those
this.
things.
Yeah. Yes. I'm like that. I don't, yeah, no, that's not for me. I don't need that. Like, and it's still true. I am super comfortable in my own skin. I'm very much happy alone sometimes,
Yeah.
but there is that communal side of me. And
Mhm.
so 2023, and I remember somebody had mentioned microdosing psilocybin, which is psychedelic mushrooms for anybody who's not aware, for my ADHD. They were like, oh, if because I can't take the prescribed medication, I get really bad migraines. And so somebody was like, well, psilocybin might help on microdosing level with your ADHD. So had never found anybody to help me out with that. And I was like, I don't even know what that is. Like, what? When I moved here, I was introduced to somebody, a facilitator. And so we had talked, and she's like, well, you could also do a journey, which is like 10 years of therapy in 6 hours. And I was like, girl, get out of here. What? Okay. And I was, again, 2023, I was like, this is my year. Like, I'm going in. Like,
Yeah.
let's go. Let's just do it. I don't care. I'm willing to try anything. And I had that first session with her. And it was like 10 years of therapy. It was the most incredible I think it was like 5 hours of me just like digging and digging. And it was cool because I was able to use some of my training in the session. Like,
Yeah.
why are you angry? Why are you this? Why are you that? And I was just like digging and pulling. All this stuff was like being revealed to me. And so my mom died when I was 5 years old. And like sometimes when I share my story, I tend to just be like, oh yeah, my mom died, and then I was bouncing around from house to house, and da 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 da, and it's like whatever, it's just life. That's
Yeah.
how it is. And I never really acknowledged like the anger, like you left me, right? Like I was 5 years
Oh.
old and you left, and so just to be able to like have that child moment of like expressing myself and my pain and my hurt, it was magic. So I was like, okay, I want more of this type of healing. This isn't the mind stuff. This is the body stuff. I'm like, this is crazy. This is crazy good, right?
Mhm.
And so that was my first experience with that psilocybin journey, and I was just kind of like ready for more, like just like letting my trauma triggers surface so that I can work on healing them. And one of the other things for me too in the back of my head was I want to start a business one day. I do want to like get back into, I didn't know at the time exactly what I wanted to do, but I was like, I still want to coach and I still want to do that. But I'm afraid to talk to people. So that's a problem. Right. So
Yep.
I ended up connecting with, and I love just how God brings, when you start asking, it starts coming. Like, so be
Yeah.
ready for it. Right. And so just like on my Instagram feed, this gal, she is also a coach, and I'd seen her on my cross my feed before in the past, but like I don't really interact with her. She's a very big personality, black lady, and big voice, very like in your face, move, like
Yeah.
all the things, and like trigger. I'm like, oh my gosh, for somebody who's had to raise herself, I was, one of three black students in school growing up. So just black women, and feeling the shame that like I can't connect with other black women.
Oh,
And it was like that's a heavy burden to carry, when we should be sisters and all the things. And I'm like, oh my God, but you guys scare me. I'm just like, oh my God, all that. So anyway, so I got on the phone with her. Actually, I slipped into her DMs and she's like, I'll call you. I was like, she's not going to call me. This is like, one of those big wig coaches out there making millions of dollars. I'm like, she's not going to call me. But I gave her my number. Sure enough, she called me. And immediately I'm like, all the things. My body is like, my throat is like,
I can feel it.
yes,
Yeah.
throat's tight. I'm sweaty. My chest is pounding. I'm like, oh my God, I have to talk to this woman. Okay. So I answer the phone. I'm rambling all kinds of nonsense. I mean, like looking back on it. And she's like, just join the program. I'm gonna give you the link. You're gonna sign up and you just join the program and you just come and hang out with the girls. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. I can do that. And I did. And I came and I hung out with the girls. I didn't speak. Which again, for somebody now that I think about all this, somebody who wanted to sing and I wasn't speaking for decades, like I was afraid to use my voice. Um,
Wow.
it's just like, okay, whatever. Right. So, um, week 2 in the program, she gives us our homework assignment, and the homework assignment is to do breath work. And of course, I push play. We all know like the rest is history. It's her
Yeah.
YouTube
Over.
channel, and I'm like, what the heck? But I'm like 2 minutes in, I'm bawling, I'm seeing colors. Jesus is down there holding my inner child, and I'm like praying, and we're like, that was another thing too. Like, I was a single mom before I met my husband. And so what got me through that was my spiritual connection and my faith. And so, and I did get married, and like I still love the Lord. Like, I'm like, okay, Jesus is my homie, whatever, right? But that like really deep connecting and spending time with him, and just like the worship as a vocalist, like worship was big for me, and I hadn't been doing that. So to be in that moment of worship, like I started singing in bed, crying. I am still getting goosies for that experience. And the first thing that I thought was, I'm like, this is like the psilocybin journey. I was like, whoa, but I did that with my breath. Wait a minute. What is this? Like, this is craziness. And of course, I, integrated and kind of came down, started looking everywhere into where is this link from? Who is this human doing this stuff? How can I learn more? All the things. And of course, I don't practice before I'm like, well, I just want to get certified.
Yeah, you're like, I'm in. I get
I'm
it.
in because, why not? I've got
Yeah.
all of my certifications. Let's just add another one.
Yeah.
And so I went to, she had a 3-day workshop, and I knew she was selling something like from the beginning,
Oh
but I
yeah.
was like, I don't care. I'm coming to the workshop because every workshop we had a drop in, we did some breath, and I was like, oh yeah, this is so juicy. This is so good. And then of course the pitch at the end, and I was like, well, I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. And I was like, but I'm not going to pay full price. I don't like, because that was the message that I got during one of our drop-in sessions, like really tapping into my inner knowing and my wisdom and my manifestation and all this stuff. And sure enough, I won that spinny thing. I won the $1,000 off. And I was like, I knew I was
Dude.
supposed to be in this program. Like I knew it was for me. Like I get chills because it's just like, I knew. And I know this is like a long story, but in the program, Breath work has absolutely changed my life. It took me from that top down, that mindset coaching, the mind to try and change the body, and flipped it where I got to just be in my body and start unraveling this like tight grip that like trauma wrapped around the gut, trauma wrapped around the heart, trauma wrapped around the throat, right? And like trauma wrapped around the mind. And breath just started like unraveling all of that trauma and blew me open, wide open in the most beautiful way ever. Where I'm taking up space in the world. I'm sharing, I'm talking, I'm creating. I hired a writing coach. I'm writing. Um, and I'm dreaming again. And like, I was like, well, I'm just going to be a coach. I'm going to sit behind this computer. And I'm like, no, now I'm like hosting workshops. I've got my first workshop next month in
Mm,
person. We're doing breath work in a pajama party. Like, I'm just
yeah,
like, I don't even know who I am. Like, I want to have a pajama party with girls. What is going on here? Right. And I attribute that to breath and the healing that took place on a physical level, right? Like we cannot talk ourselves out of trauma that's stuck in the body. We just can't. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. It's like, all this mindset work and, it's great. But if you are moving through life stuck, heavy, unable to like really just expand yourself and who you're supposed to be, that's not it, right? That's not all there is.
yeah,
There's so much more. So, um, yeah, so that's a little bit about like how I got here. And my 2024 goal or vision is to start speaking more, to start sharing my story. And that's where I am working with a coach to help me kind of write a talk and get my story out on to paper in a way that I hope is able to land with others and share this work with the world. So yeah, and
amazing.
I have a piece of my story. If you are interested in me reading it, I would love to share it. Just a
Okay.
little snippet.
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
I would love to hear that.
And of course, this is just me. Like I'm like, okay, I got to practice. So
Yeah, no, seriously. That
all
would be
right.
amazing. And I think that um this is gonna go live like the first week in January. I'm pretty sure. I haven't quite finalized my schedule, but like let's just kick off 2024 for you. Share your story. Like this is
Yes.
I so good.
Oh, thank you, Dakota. All right. So, this is just like a little snippet of breath is a fluid thing.
Mm.
Breath is a fluid thing. It leaves my body once again, filling the space as his fists meet my face over and over again. It expands throughout the room as I lay in fetal position, hands around my head to protect. Breath of my screams moves down the steps into the parking lot and seep through the doors of neighbors choosing to mind their own business. They hear the vibration of my breath. It's loud, it's big, it's afraid, it's alone, but it survives. Breath is a fluid thing. It doesn't erase the scars of his cigarette lighter burnt into my legs. It doesn't erase the memories of losing her. It doesn't erase the loneliness of abandonment. But breath is a fluid thing. It moves through the scars, it moves through the memories, it moves through the loneliness. Breath is a fluid thing. It brings life where there was death. It brings joy and peace where there was sorrow. It brings companionship to the lonely left behind and misunderstood. And it brings healing to the wounds left untouched. Breath is a fluid thing.
I'm just crying now.
Mm,
Thank you.
yeah. Thank you for letting me share. Mm,
That is I don't even have words.
mm,
Wow.
thank you. Yeah.
Mm, this breath, man. Like
It's real. It's a real deal.
it's real.
Yeah.
And it's so I just resonated with so much of your story. I just want to thank you for sharing and just the whole time I'm like, yes, this is perfect timing for me personally. And I know it's gonna just meet a lot of people where they're at. And the breath is we speak to this a lot on the channel with other interviews I've done. You can't explain this to someone. You can't articulate in word and brain it as we're doing to other people, but it's the way you just wrote your words and that story, like it brought that up in me. And of course I've experienced it. And of course I have my own personal heart in this work.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible. I wish that I could just like, I just want to like shake people in, a loving, gentle way, like just try it. Like you're not trying it because of your trauma. And I know you don't want, I
Yeah.
know trauma is a trigger word and trauma is like you said in the beginning, it's used everywhere, but it's real. And I
Mhm.
think we put this trauma as in, actually I'd be so curious what your thoughts are on this is we use this word trauma. And in my experience, it has this negative connotation. Like, I don't even want to open that door because it's bad or it's wrong. But in my experience, trauma has just been a beautiful journey. And it's
Mm.
something that it's around all of our hearts in a one way or our guts and our brains, like you were saying. And
Mm.
yeah, I'd be curious what your thoughts are on trauma because it is such a buzzword right now because
Yeah.
it's real and people are starting to actually put language to the
Uh-huh.
reality that we have stuck energy. And that's all it is. It's just stuck energy and emotion in your body.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's twofold. I think there's the people that are experiencing trauma, and then there's the people that realize they may have been a cause of somebody's trauma.
Yeah.
And so trying to come to terms with both of those can be really scary. Um, and our mentor, she says, never waste a good trauma trigger.
Yeah.
And we get that, and we can kind of like, we're like, yeah, that's right, but a lot of people aren't ready to do that work. A lot of
No.
people, or it's just like this hustle culture, right? Like, it's fine. And that's where I was like, it's fine. Like, this is my life. This is what
Yeah.
was supposed to happen. This is how it is. And so, when we take a minute to get soft and gentle and loving, that's uncomfortable, you know? And
So
even like, yeah, and even saying the word trauma, it feels really big. It feels like that's not me. This is all like this stuff happened to me, but it was not trauma. One of the best things I heard somebody say to me was, um, we've all experienced trauma on the spectrum. And so I almost feel like if people understood that trauma is too much, too fast, too soon,
hmm
mean anything to anybody, right? Like you could just
yeah.
be going to the grocery store and somebody cussed you out for cutting them off or, putting your cart in their way. And that could feel traumatic for you. Or somebody else would be like, "Oh hell no," and they're like, "That wasn't trauma for me. I gave them the trauma."
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
like, I think we just have to allow ourselves to define trauma in a way that is true for us. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of people who are afraid of it are identifying it as like what they think it should mean instead of really understanding what that means for them. So, I don't know.
hmm
Yeah.
That's so true. And I see that it can feel like a weakness sometimes to acknowledge that trauma. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm weak or I'm trying to blame someone else for the way that I am. And it's like that's not at all. Like I think it's the most empowering for me for sure. Like taking ownership of the trauma I've experienced has been the most empowering and it's taking responsibility and ownership that like it's not putting the blame. It's, there's people and I acknowledge those people, but it's like taking ownership of the reality that there is trauma in my system that is preventing me from showing up, like you spoke to so beautifully, showing up in the way that I ultimately want to show up,
Mm-hmm.
keeping me hidden under the covers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think a good check-in would be if you're dreaming, what's holding you back from accomplishing your dream? And whatever comes up, whatever fears come up, whatever self-doubt comes up, all of that stuff is trauma.
Yeah.
If you're not doing the thing, the whatever's got that grip on you, whatever excuse, that's your trauma.
Yeah.
And we can unravel that. We can work on that. We can heal that. Breath can heal that. Just saying, you know,
Literally just your breath. Like,
your
I
breath.
mean, use me to help you breathe, but it's just your breath. That's all that's doing the work.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
breath in God, right? As you spoke to so beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
I love to wrap it back to something you said at the very beginning that just like struck a chord with me is you spoke to praying to God to take the desire away. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's such an interesting reflective question is like, is there anywhere where I'm praying to God to remove a desire?
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think that's such an intro into, okay, well, there's some trauma here, or there's some healing, or there's some, because your desire is good.
Yeah. Yeah. That desire for me to want to create, that desire for me to want to use my voice. Oh, if he had taken that away, I wouldn't be sharing my story as it is. And I also had to go through my story
Ugh,
to
that's a
create.
journey.
Yeah. To
Hmm.
create, right? I was writing the other day and I just kind of looked up and I'm like, okay, this is why. I
Hmm.
get it. This is why I had to go through to get here. My story had to be, and you knew I could handle it, and you knew I was going to be able to get here, but I had to go through that. And, as a Christian, I'm like, to fulfill your purpose, to fulfill your work,
Yeah.
sometimes we're like, but my way, you know,
Right?
whatever you believe, but just trusting too that like your desires and your dreams are meant for you and those who you are called to serve.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're right at time, but just to also speak to how terrifying it is to embark on that journey. It puts up some friction between your relationships, and there's this, it's not easy.
Mm-mm. Yeah. I'll just leave with this too, that breath work is intended to help calm down some of that scariness.
Yep.
If you can land into like, I love Sam always says, the first 7 minutes is work. But if we can come on the other side of that, the fear just dissipates. So for somebody who is anxious, who is feeling a lot of fear,
True.
if you can give yourself a minute to breathe, that can go away. Mm, so,
So true.
so good.
It's so true. Oh, thank you for sharing your story, Stacy.
Oh, thank you
I
for
would,
having me.
yeah, you're so welcome. I would love to know how can people find you? Do you have offerings available? Like, how can people work with you? Tell me all the
Yeah.
things.
Okay. So Breath Reborn, it took me forever to figure out my business name, but the only thing I could think about is like breathwork. I feel like there's been a rebirth with breathwork. So
Yeah.
my Instagram, my website is Breath Reborn,
Mhm.
at Breath Reborn, Instagram or breathreborn.com. You can email me at hello@breathreborn.com. And I have, let's see, this will be aired in January. So starting once a month, I'm going to start a virtual community breathwork. So every month, just come on in. We're going to breathe together as a community online for about 60 minutes. And then if you're local in Frederick, then join us for our in-person workshops this month or January. We're having the breathwork and pajama party, ladies only, but BYOB, just a really fun time to like, hang out, get cozy in our PJs and all that sort of thing. And so each month, right as of now, that is what's ongoing, is that monthly community and then a monthly in person. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds amazing. That sounds
Mm,
amazing. Thank you so much, Stacy. I'll drop
yeah.
all of those links in the show notes below, so they'll be super easy to access.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dakota.
You're
You're amazing. I
welcome.
appreciate you.